everybody, this is Natalia from the Indian Trails Public Library branch. Today I will share the recipe and show the process of making the French bread at home. The home ovens usually won't fit long French baguettes, so instead we will be making 2 half baguettes. The French bread that I will be making requires only 4 ingredients: flour, yeast, salt and water. I tried recipes with bread flour and unbleached all-purpose flour, and I personally prefer to mix them together to achieve both chewiness and light crumb texture. I prefer the King Arthur brand for all-purpose unbleached flour, but I don't really have preference for the bread flour. So today I'm gonna be using Pillsbury brand. Also, I will be using instant yeast and water that was previously boiled in the kettle and cooled off, because I just like the taste better than the tap water. The total time to make this recipe is about 18 hours, because first I will make a starter and leave it to ferment overnight, and then tomorrow I will make the main dough using the starter and bake the bread. This recipe utilizes poolish, which is a type of a starter often used for French bread baking, and it has a high ratio of water to flour. The advantage of adding a poolish to the dough is that it greatly improves its flavor and texture. The poolish is mixed together from flour, yeast and water at least 6 hours and up to 12 hours before making the main dough. So I would recommend doing this the night before you plan to make your bread. I will be weighing the flour and water using the kitchen scale, which is more precise, but I will include the recipe with measurements in cups too. Let's start. I'm gonna be adding 45 grams of bread flour and 45 grams of all-purpose flour, then 1/8 of the teaspoon of yeast, and now I will mix the flours and the yeast together and add 90 grams of room temperature water. So I measured my water, it's about 71 degrees right now. Now I'm gonna mix it all. And then just clean the spoon. This is how poolish looks now, and now I will cover it and put it in a draft-free place. I usually use the oven overnight. Now it's the morning of the day 2, and we'll start making our main dough. Let's take a look and see how the poolish looks after fermenting overnight. You see that it's nice and bubbly. To make the main dough, I will combine 2 flours, bread flour and all-purpose unbleached flour, and sea salt that I use. And then I will combine the poolish, the yeast, and warmed water. I just warmed it to 90 degrees in microwave. I'm trying to make poolish loose here, so it will be easier to mix it in the flours. Now I will add all the wet ingredients to the flour mix and mix with a spoon. The mixture will look kind of rough and shaggy at first, But our goal now to make sure that all the flour will get wetted. Now I will go and put just some tap warm water in this bowl, and we'll be starting to knead the dough with hands, and we'll be wetting the fingers just to help us so the dough doesn't stick that much. I'm just pinching the dough, trying to make sure that all the flour is wet, make sure that the salt is spread evenly, that the yeast is spread evenly through the dough. So again, just nothing very rough, just pinch it, divide it in those like small balls, and we do it just to combine all the ingredients well. Wet your fingers again a little bit. Now we're gonna do several stretch and folds. So to do this, you grab the dough, kind of like at the bottom, stretch a little bit and fold it on itself. And we'll keep doing it for about a minute or two. We're just trying to help dough to develop the gluten. And the dough is still like sticky and kind of shaggy, but you can feel that it's getting more elastic like while you're doing it. So you see, you can stretch it a bit longer already. Okay, now we'll just let the dough rest for 10 minutes. I'm using a piece of a plastic wrap just to cover the dough so it will rest for 10 minutes. Now I'm gonna prepare the bowl that we're gonna be using for dough to rest in the future by lightly oiling the bottom and the walls of the bowl. Now I will lightly flour the work surface and move the dough from the bowl to the surface so we can do a series of stretch and folds. Now I'm flouring my fingers so the dough doesn't stick too much. Okay, this recipe is a high hydration recipe, so the dough is wet and sticky. So to help you stretch and fold, it's better if you use the dough scraper. Okay, so I'm gonna do a series of stretch and folds. Again, we're doing all this trying to build more gluten and make the dough nice and elastic. After a couple of sets, you'll notice that the dough is now tightened up. So now we're gonna put it in the oiled bowl and let it rest for 40 minutes. Cover the bowl with a lid or with a plastic wrap and let it rest. Now the dough rested for 40 minutes, we'll do one set of stretch and folds. We'll get the dough again on our work surface. It feels much more elastic now and less shaggy. Another bit more flour around just in case. And again, we pull, stretch the dough on one side, fold it over, do the same on the opposite side, fold it over, then stretch of this side and do the final stretch and fold. Now we'll flip the dough and put it back to the bowl and cover it and let it rest for another 40 minutes. Now the dough rested for 40-45 minutes, we'll do the third set of stretch and folds. Again, I will invert the dough on the work surface. And you'll notice how soft and rested it feels. Now it's really elastic and smooth. Okay, and now we'll flip it over and put it to rest for another 40-45 minutes. Now we'll do the fourth and final set of stretch and folds. You can see that the dough looks puffed up and again elastic. So we'll stretch, fold final time, and let it rest for another 40-45 minutes. The dough now looks very puffy. I will get it out to our work surface and divide it in half. Now I will pre-shape each piece of dough into a ball. Spread it out a little bit and then fold it on the inside. Now we'll flip it over and then pull it a little bit towards yourself, kind of tightening the top layer, and let it rest. We'll do the same with the second piece. Spread it out a little bit very softly, then fold it over onto itself, and then pull to tighten it. Now I will cover those balls with a loose piece of plastic and then we'll just let it rest for 15 minutes. While we wait, let me show you how we're gonna be proofing the final baguette. I usually use a cutting board and a cotton towel that I cover with flour. So you're supposed to use, for real French bread, you're supposed to use a couche, so very, very thick linen cloth, but I'm just using the towel. I also use those two pieces of like leftover from the plastic wrap, just to help me to keep shape of the baguettes. Now that the dough has rested, we will shape the baguettes. I will fold the dough as an envelope, pressing very lightly. Now we will roll the baguette. It's very important to make sure that the dough is sealed. Now we have this log and I'm gonna roll it into 14-15 inches half baguette. Roll lightly but firmly. Okay, now I will place the baguette on the towel and make the second one. So again, first we fold it into an envelope, and then I will fold it like this. So first time we go, there is about 1 inch left here, and the second time we fold it all the way. You can check the seam, make sure it's completely closed. And now we'll transfer it into the towel, and we'll let it rest for about an hour and a half. We'll check on the proofing process in the middle to see how it is going. Now we're ready to leave baguettes to proof. I will put some flour on top, and I will put the baguettes into a plastic bag. So they won't dry. And you can leave them just here on the table, or you can put them in the cold oven just to keep the environment draft free. It's been about 40 minutes. The loaves rise quite a bit, but because now the room temperature is pretty cold, we'll give it another like 20-25 minutes. But at this point I will start preheating the oven to 480 degrees. While the oven starts to preheat, let me show you the setup I have in the oven to add extra steam to the oven. I have this pan filled with lava rocks, and when I will put the baguettes in to bake, I will put some hot water, like boiling water here, to add steam to the oven. I will be baking the baguettes using that special French bread pan, but you can just bake it on a regular baking sheet, just putting a piece of parchment paper on top. I will also be using this aluminum pan to cover the bread to make sure that the steam doesn't escape in the first 10-15 minutes of baking. This will help bread to puff really nicely. To score the bread, it means to make the incisions on top of the bread, I'm using just a regular razor blade. I tried using a knife, but it doesn't really cut smoothly. Let's check the baguettes have proofed. If you press lightly, the indentation should go up just halfway. It means it's proofed really well. Now I will transfer the baguettes to the baguette pan using this board. It's just like a piece of cardboard wrapped in masking tape that I made. You can use any flat surface, so maybe like a flat cookie sheet will be good. So I'm flipping the baguette on the board and then carefully transferring it to the pan. And now we'll do the same with the second one. Now I will score the baguettes. The cuts will be about 1/4 of an inch deep, and they will overlap a little bit. Those cuts will help the steam to escape when the bread will be rising fast in the oven. Now I will just cover the baguettes right away with the aluminum pan, and then take it to the oven and then slide the baguette pan off the cookie sheet. Now I'm placing the pan into the hot oven. And now I will add water, hot water, onto the lava rocks. I'm placing the towel just to prevent the water spilling on the glass. You see we're getting a lot of steam right away. So now we just close and we'll bake the bread under the aluminum pan for about 15 minutes. Then we will remove the pan and bake for another 10 to 15 minutes. Now that 15 minutes has passed, I will remove the aluminum pan and take a look at the baguettes. Look how well they puffed. Now we'll just close the oven door and leave them to bake for another 15 minutes. It's been 5 minutes and I noticed that they're getting quite brown in there, so I will go ahead and flip them so they will brown more evenly. It's been 10 minutes since we removed the aluminum pan and it looks like the bread is ready, so I will get it out of the oven now. Let's take a look. So it looks so nice and puffy and brown. Now I will just let it cool for a little bit and then I'll show you how it looks sliced. It's been about 25 minutes. The bread is still warm, but let me cut it to show you how it looks on the inside. Look at this large crumb. It's like really, crust is really nice and crunchy on the outside, but inside the crumb is light and chewy. Look at this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I was really happy to share my bread baking experience with you. If you have any questions, please email us at the branch and I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you for watching and please subscribe to our YouTube channel.